So there's a little bit about me. I'm working on my master's in analytics at Georgia Tech. I met many of y'all before, but what I want to talk about tonight, it's more of a question, which is why I'm presenting it in lightning talks. I don't know a lot about this topic, and I kind of wanted feedback from the group, which I've gotten some feedback already. But as we all know, there's this big race, to integrate, LLMs and generative AI and machine learning ops and automated machine learning ops and generative AI. And I came across a product that I'm curious about to see in terms of automated machine learning ops and generative AI reporting, where does that fit in? And just recently, in the last year, SAP, who's familiar with SAP? Who's used it somewhere? Okay.
I think so.
Okay, so some of the competitors are Oracle, IBM, Salesforce, Workaday, used a lot for information flow, business systems, used a lot in HR, insurance, finance. Well, they come out with a product with Data Robot, and Data Robot, just kind of some of the competitors for them are listed up here: SAS, Alteryx, Anaconda, H2O AI. So they've come out with this product, and this kind of gives you a detailed overview. Can anyone read that? I don't know. But anyhow, basically, it's using a lot of the SAP services, which they have the data, kind of a data cloud warehouse, and they're merging that with the Data Robot to basically, you can do, again, my area of study is data science, so basically machine learning. It basically gives you the option to have a drop-down menu for different machine learning interactions. So, for example, if you're doing machine learning predictive analytics, you might use there are different algorithms from statistics you might use. Normally, you would code it in Python with the different libraries. You might use random forest for one of your models, or classification, or gradient descent. Just a number of things. So it basically gives you two options. It gives you a drop-down interface, or you can code in Python or R for these models. R is used a lot in statistics as well.
I haven't written R in a long time.
I know, I haven't either, but anyhow, it's still out there. So anyhow, and then the output, so basically, back to, you get these drop-down options for the different programs. It does, some of the fitting of the model is automated, but a lot of it you would select yourself. So you basically, I think you would still need to know the machine learning concepts, but you wouldn't necessarily have to know Python or R. And then it puts out these reports that, again, the usual dashboards that you would put out that would monitor the accuracy of the model and what features were significant if you're using a model that tells you that. And for an example of if you're doing an application for anomaly detection, say you wanted to, for your invoices, you wanted to notice errors in the invoice or credit card fraud, that sort of thing, it will automatically connect with an API at Data Robot, and then it will connect and put something that would tell the finance department or the fraud monitoring department at the corporation that there was an issue with the payroll item or the invoice or with the credit card fraud, and it would stop the transaction. And it would also generate, using large language models, generative AI, all the information that was on the graphs. It would summarize how the model did. It would generate a summary report. So that brings me back to my question. I'm just curious if you all have interacted with this. The launch of it, they had this big article in November that generative AI, and we have SAP and this data robot, and we're doing automated machine learning and generative AI. But my question is that really kind of the big movement? There's been so much. If you all went to the Southern Data Science Conference this past fall, the 2-day conference, every single presentation was on LLM. Every single one. Honestly, I didn't go back the second day. I got all the overheads. I have them. I've looked through them. I just couldn't take 2 days of it. I mean, I've been doing all this coursework at Georgia Tech, and I've had some studies of LLM, but it hasn't been 100% my study anyhow. That's my 5 minutes. So I'm just curious of your feedback on this. Is this, and if you all were at my presentation, I'll take a few more minutes. If you were at my presentation last month, I went out to Las Vegas, and since y'all let me go twice in a row, I'll tell you the field that I was looking into, so I'm curious about that. It was a field I was in a long time ago with a new home builders association. That's an industry that a lot of us aren't in. Might be too small, there's a big place. Anyhow, what was interesting about it, the whole point was, there were several presentations on generative AI, ChatGPT, that were sold out, packed. And so I'm thinking from a marketing perspective, this product that they were coming out with, I think if you would go to HR departments, here we are, SAP, we've been around forever, and gosh, we're partnering with Data Robot, and we have this generative AI and this automated machine learning. But I'm curious, those of you that have worked in companies or kind of keeping up with the industry, there's been this big push, and actually one of these other networking organizations I go to, he doesn't come to this one, but he's a senior software architect at a company. I was asking him, like for my job going forward, for data science, it's this whole generative AI, automated machine learning, is that going to, mean there won't be as much demand for data scientists?
No, it's the opposite. There's more.
And I remember from talking to you, I think it's kind of like these self-driving cars, like they help, but you have to, know where you want to go with it. And just looking at like the drop down even for this, even if you're not coding in Python, you have to understand like what models to use and
It's the same with software development. I use ChatGPT and Code. I used to use ChatGPT and Codium all the time to write the boilerplate. But I have noticed that if you don't know much about cybersecurity, for example, ChatGPT will write hilariously insecure code. There was a person who had to write C code. Every time I wrote C code, it was a buffer overflow.
It's
Every
not
time.
a replacement for experience or knowledge. It's like, so, the tool.
The tool.
The LLM, the use of the LLM is basically the change that we saw, well, not we. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the change, and I didn't mean to hijack your talk.
No.
I'm just saying that the change, what the LLM is bringing is similar in a way to the change that the teletype brought to people who were coding with punch cards. It was a change of interface, new processes. When the teletype came out, there's the big GUI demo that you can see online that came out in the 60s, and people were like, whoa, super impressed with the GUI. And it's normal right now. You use a GUI for everything. I mean, LL is using it right now, right? She's using a GUI. And so that's where the paradigm shift comes. How do we use this new interface? The people who are used to using the punch cards, they're like, the world is over. I'm out of a job. But if you actually learn the teletype, the terminal, write software not by using a punch card, right? By actually going through the registers, but by writing actual words, you discover like a whole new world.
My grandmother worked at Bell Labs.
Is that a joke?
No, I'm
Okay.
serious. My grandmother worked at Bell Labs when they went from punch cards to using Unix and Vibe.
Right.
And
So,
I was talking to her this morning about me
so
programming
the
in Vibe, and
change
she
to
remembered
LLMs
what Vibe
is
was.
similar. That's a similar paradigm. I'm not saying that's exactly it, but it's a similar paradigm shift. So you want to understand how the impact is going to be to the industry, look back. It's not going to tell you exactly what's going to happen, but it's going to sort of rise.
That's a more concise version of what I was saying. It will make you more productive, but the AI fundamentally does not understand what it's doing.
Leave it for your language.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
I guess I was just curious though on folks, if we just focus maybe 1 or 2 more minutes on, is this a wow? Is this product a wow? Do you all see, again, to me, I'm kind of, from what I understand,
there's a lot of hype.
and what, you can hype it, sure, but from what y'all have heard, not necessarily where you are, because that's, I don't want to, you don't need to reveal your secret sauce, but mean, I think I remember back in 2019, IBM had Watson, that basically you could choose different machine learning models. Like it was similar to this, like there was a drop down. I think they sold it and so on and so forth. But and also Tableau, if you do, there's a little caption box that will do a summary of your chart. So that's generative AI. I mean, I guess I just need to look at this more closely. But to me, I mean, is y'all's understanding that the holy grail of this whole thing, in terms of automated machine learning, might be generative AI of the machine learning process?
Yes,
ahead of time. I'm sorry, but let's have someone else. Yes.
No. When it comes to generative AI, it's one of those things that is not very good at fixing its own problems.
Yeah.
Generative AI is not like other machine learning models. Sorry. Can people hear me now? Cool. So when it comes to generative AI, it's not like other models.
Right.
Generative AI is doing a prediction based on the tokenization of the things that you feed into it, right? So when it comes to deep learning models and machine learning models that are specifically tasked with doing something, the likelihood of something being generated as being something that's hallucinating for an LLM tends to be a big problem. It's imprecise, right? So even if you're trying to use an LLM to like help you with coding, it's only based on what you're feeding into it, but it takes so many different billions of parameters, and then you can basically overfit it in the same way that you could do any other machine learning model, right? So when it comes to generative AI, you have a big problem, specifically when it comes to having generative AI do generative AI, because you're just going to have a hallucination problem. If you're training something on itself, it can't actually rectify and fix itself because it doesn't know what's wrong, right? So one thing that happens when you're fine-tuning different models for a particular task, the biggest problem you have with generative AI is it's only trained on what it's trained on.
Right.
So it's not creative. It's using a mathematical algorithm that's saying that, hey, I have tokens and different companies, different methodologies, whether you're using PyTorch or you're using whatever other tokenizer you may be using, and then that self-attention algorithm that the LLM is based off of is sometimes company specific. And even if you're someone that's familiar with GPT-3, 3.5, and 4 from OpenAI, they're very big models. The only way they're effective is if you fine-tune them, but they're only fine-tuned to a particular task. That's why they're kind of bad. When it comes to other companies, no one does it better necessarily, and it's still not great. So if you're trying to use like ChatGPT for like work, right? You're like, okay, I need you to do this thing. It doesn't have context. It doesn't understand. Sometimes they limit it to its own access, and then you have proprietary information, confidential information, and it tends to have a problem with not being able to feed it context, right? So it's like, okay, this company will let me fine-tune this model. It's expensive and not very useful. Even if you ask it for a particular question, sometimes it generates the right answer, but it will continually generate different answers. So you can ask the same question, it'll answer it like 5, 6, 10 different ways. So that's one of your problems. It's not the holy grail. Like generative AI it has no context. It doesn't understand what's presented. It's NLP. It just predicts based on numbers.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm out of time. Let me ask one last question. Okay, maybe by a show of hands. Again, this picture, all these corporations, this mad rush, find the holy grail of machine learning, generative AI. This product, and again, I realize it's a very high level. I'm going to ask you, if you raise your hands, if you either think it's hype, we'll all show of hands, it's maybe much ado about nothing. Or if you think it might, or we'll have, okay, if you think it might be much ado about nothing, raise your hand. Some people do, and then if you think it might be a wow. Y'all are asleep. Y'all are asleep. Okay.
I need a third option.
What's the third?
Interesting, but possibly overhyped. Probably.
Right.
No, it's worth learning.
It's worth learning.
By the way, we have someone who's very well versed from the LLM side. Not that they're well versed from the technical side, but they're also well versed from the business side. If that person wants to later approach you and talk to you, I don't want to point them out.
Okay.
If that person
Oh,
wants to
that
talk
would
to you and they
relate to
probably-
this technical for LLM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they
Oh,
want to
please.
approach you,
I'd love
I
to
don't
hear-
want to point this person out.
Whoever
please-
you are, I'd love
Yeah.
to hear your opinion if you want to come see me.
All right. And
I appreciate it.
they
Thank
know
you.
who I'm talking about.
I'm not annoying. I just like to hear.
Cool. Wait, this is fine. Okay. So, good evening, guys. I'm Surya, and I have been working on my articles recently to help the community with Python and OOPS concepts. So, I have seen that like majority of the people, they're finding it little hard to start with programming or start with Python, because the language is easy, I know, but to migrate to Python from C or Java, they might feel different because there is typecasting, there is variable declaration, there is function calls, whatnot. The reason I like Python is that it's easy to code, it's easy to solve problems and develop solutions on the go. And Python is my go-to language for any of the hackathon. And I confidently say that each hackathon I attended, I won at least design prize or third prize or first prize. So that's my thing. And I'm a One Piece fan. So go Luffy. Yeah. So this is my screenshot from I think it's from like 7-8 years. So it's been long. So today I'll be discussing about.
You can pass as a Windows user. You like One Piece. Approved.
Thank you. So today.
Is that like Pokemon?
No, it's
No, it's Japanese.
I'm kidding. I don't want to trigger you. Relax, sit down.
No, it's totally different than
I
Pokemon.
watch you
Yeah.
too, okay?
Whoa, oh, nice, thank you. So, I hope. Wait. Okay, I did not prepare presentation yet. I thought my art will be used as a presentation, so. So the problem that I picked was Towers of Hanoi. So it's a classical mathematical problem which involves 3 poles and given a number of disks. So the goal is to move. Okay, I did not name this, but if you see so the goal is to move all these disks from the first pole 1, 2, 3, 4 to the last pole. Can I draw here? I don't think so. Sorry. So, I wanted to approach teaching programming or teaching OOPS concept by picking a problem. So if you tell to someone that, okay, these are the concepts of OOPS, this is inheritance or abstraction or not, they'll get bored. So I thought pick a problem, get a solution and start coding. So I thought, okay, let's pick Towers of Hanoi. So just a quick recap. So Towers of Hanoi is a problem where it involves 3 poles. You need to move all the disks from the first pole to the last pole. And it follows few set of rules. The lower value disk or the lower weighted disk should be placed on a higher value disk. So if you see, it's in the order like 1, 2, 3, 4. You cannot put 2 on top of 1. It should be in an ascending order. And you need to follow that criteria while moving the disks from the source to the destination to the last pole. And any time in the process, you can move only 1 disk at a time. Oh yeah, yes.
No. I'm trying to remember. This involves recursion, correct?
Yes, this involves recursion. You're right.
Okay. I may choose one of my articles I wrote for my lightning talk then.
Oh, you can use that, yeah?
Okay. It involves recursion.
You got it. So anytime if I approach a problem, what I do is just put it on the paper. If you write your problem statement on the paper, it's 20% solved. Just put it on the paper. And if you think about the solution and just draw it and all, it's 50% solved. The problem is 50% solved. So if you see, I took 4 disks and I just simply wrote all the steps starting from moving each pole. So these are for 4 disks. If you see at any point of time, I'm moving only 1 disk and placing the lower value disk on the higher value. You might wonder that there is a 3rd pole as well. We'll be using that as an helper pole. So after writing my solution on the paper, I thought that this is somewhat equivalent to a data structure, which is a stack. So people might not be aware about stack. So it's a list of plates which are organized at a restaurant, or you can consider like papers from a stack.
Pancakes.
Yeah, pancakes. Oh wow, classical example. So yes. So stack is basically, it's a data structure to store values or elements or any kind of things, and it's like first in, last out. So the item which is placed at the last. So think that if you place the paper at the beneath, and if you put a stack of 100 pages, so the last one will be picked last, though it's inserted first. That's the approach of a stack. So I thought this might be a stack problem then. When I kind of started to implementing stack, then I went to 5 disks. So I actually wrote disk solution for 2 and 3, but I lost that paper. I'm so sorry. So I also, to increase the complexity and also to understand how does each disk work, so I just wrote down the solution for 5 disks. So you can see we have, is it clear or is it fine? Oh, cool. Yeah. So I wrote the approach for 5 disks. So it's a lot of process. I need to take an extra paper, strike off few things because I made a mistake. And yeah, I was able to solve the problem for 5 disks at 31 steps. So when I was trying to build a solution, I found that there is something recursive which is involved in this problem. So this is a new algorithm concept, the recursion concept. I wanted to introduce people to recursion with a new problem. So if you see, for n equal to 1 for 1 disk, so this was the simple step that I followed. But when you increase the complexity to 2 disks, you can see that we have 3 paths. And when I add 3 disks to my problem, it becomes like a tree. So where did we come? From stacks to recursion to trees. We approach to a solution where we are using trees as well with recursion. So when I told this to people with an example, they were like, oh, is this simple? How do I code? Coding is not that difficult. It's just syntax. So I encourage people to first present your solution and then go to coding. I mean, since I already got the solution, coding is not that tough. I'll just go to the coding part. And when I was coding, I used few. Can I increase the?
Oh, you use it. Okay.
Wait, how can I increase the text?
Command plus.
Oh, is it window?
Command plus usually, yeah.
Is it?
PyCharm.
That is PyCharm.
That is why.
Yeah, you'd be better off with Visual Studio Code or Vim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's...
Sorry.
Anytime you mention Vim, I'm going to tell you to sit down.
Is this
of course.
No.
is this fine or
Okay, so you design a stack.
is this fine, or how can I increase to a particular?
So I'm guessing the disk is the node,
Mm-hmm.
and then the stack and the pole is the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Wait, how can I control this? Yeah. So.
Couldn't that have just been a data class?
Mm-hmm.
Have a minute. Bailey, no code reviews.
Oh God, sorry. Oh, good. So what I did was I implemented the OOPS concept for classes and all. So we have, in our problem, we have 2 elements. One is the disk that we want to move, and one is the pole. So I created class for each. So we have disk number and pole name and all. And I created something for pole, a class for pole. And the pole has different operations, like you need to push a disk to the pole, and you need to pop the disk from the pole. And there are few functions like you want to check if the pole is empty. These might be one-liner, but even it's a one-liner, make sure to convert it to methods because it increases the readability. So I want to see what's in the pole and all. And this is where the recursion comes into picture. You might think that the solution is pretty hard, but you'll be shocked if I show that the solution is only 3 lines. And yes, so these 3 lines will do the job of solving this problem. I implemented a recursion method with 3 poles: source pole, destination pole, and the support pole. And let's just see the action. Wait. So I'll put for 3 disks, and when I run my, oh wait, no debugging, just running. Okay, I think it ran. So when I run my code, so it gives the steps of moving the disk from one pole to different pole. And also I kept a timing criteria just to see how much time does it take to solve. For those of you who are wondering, there is a interesting concept, and I like the power of mathematics and all. So it takes 2 power 3 operations to move 3 disks. That means 8 operations. It's kind of exponential. So if you want to move 5 disks, it takes 2 power 5, which is 512 operations. And you might be assuming, if I want to move 64 disks, it takes 2 power 64 operations. Guess what? If you move 1 disk at a time, and if single operations take 1 second, to move 64 disks, it takes 31 years. So that's the...
log, O-N log.
It's 2 power n. That's the power of exponential. And we got supercomputers and all. We can migrate like 500 disks, 1000 disks at a time. But before supercomputers were invented, this was a pretty good classical problem of like mathematics. So I thought this might be helpful to introduce multiple concepts in Python, like the stacks, trees, recursion, and whatnot, the OOPS concepts. And
Awesome. Yeah, awesome.
So this is a small thing that I would,
Questions? Could you do this entirely in functional programming out of class and just implement a stack by just using an array or a list?
The answer after this message.
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah. All right. So thank you, Surya, so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah.
By the way,
Why you shouldn't use recursion in production on a serverless architecture. Yes, we are. Names will not be named as you protect the identity of the victim. But one day I was working as a lead backend engineer at a startup. I will not name which one. The intern, fresh out of computer science, he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He was a nice kid. I was the only person on the team that had a degree, but I've been programming since I was a kid. I'm going to finish my degree. I just take a sabbatical off and working way through school so I don't get into debt. He decided he was going to use a fancy algorithm, which objectively, if implemented correctly, would have saved the company money, would have been faster, would have scaled better, would have been great with a serverless architecture in many ways. But it was recursive. And we were using Node.js without TypeScript. You can see where this is going, don't you? He forgot to put a break statement. He forgot to put a break statement. We had $500,000 in free, no, it wasn't $500,000, it was probably $1 million, of free cloud compute credits on Microsoft Azure. We had a billing threshold alert for $100,000. I had to wake up at the middle of the night because the emails would not stop coming. I worked my butt off. I worked hard. Again, my protest about the face-to-face interviews. Yeah, I am like the most stereotypical autistic person imaginable. I live in a basement. I run Arch Linux. No, not Manjaro. No, not Arco. No, Arch Linux with a custom kernel. I'm that kind of weird, okay? Like, I can't do presentations because there's a kernel module needed that I don't know the name of. I know it's in Ubuntu, but it's not in Arch by default, so I have to find it and install it, and I don't have the time. I would rather play video games. And my games perform better on Linux, even though they're Windows only. But after finally saving and quitting and logging in,
the intern, who shall go unnamed, decided to ignore all requests, to wait for code review, and did it immediately. We had a $100,000 bill. All the serverless compute was gone. We had to shut the the servers down. I did not renew my contract with that company. Long story short, I was the only one using Git branching strategies. Basic ones like implement a feature X. So create feature X branch. Create pull request for feature X branch into master or main or whatever it's called, and then test there, and then only when stable, merge into production. Basic stuff. I was the only one using a proper issue tracker. They thought a Notion board was a good idea of an issue tracker, not GitHub issue tracker or GitLab issue tracker or Trello. The team was entirely dysfunctional, but I was the no-name nobody with no degree, so no one listened to me until we got the bill. And I was advocating for sticking to the Linux kernel style guide. No more than 3 levels of nesting code. It's not just for syntax, not just to look pretty. If it's easy to read, you can maintain it. This was a fork bomb virus waiting to happen. And the intern basically deployed a fork bomb to production that exponentially grew in memory usage.
So, the reason why you don't use recursion in production, before we thank you for that, is you have a limited window of execution. You're getting billed by the second, and recursion is tricky to get right without exits. So, thank you so much.
Hold to it.